Can you hear it? That infectious, slowed down Fergie sample that literally lived in your head for months back in 2022. You know exactly what I'm talking about. First Class wasn't just a song, it was a massive cultural moment that signaled the arrival of a new kind of superstar. But you've gotta wonder, how did a curly-haired kid from Louisville, Kentucky transform into the most confident, suave man in the music industry? It feels like we blinked and Jack Harlow went from that what's poppin' guy to a total household name who's everywhere you look. If you've been on the internet lately, you've witnessed what can only be described as absolute main character energy. It's been a whirlwind. One minute he's a niche internet rapper building a following on YouTube, and the next he's a global fashion icon, walking the red carpet at the Met Gala with the kind of poise you'd expect from a Hollywood veteran. He's managed to capture a vibe that most artists spend their entire careers chasing, and he did it all with a smirk and a pair of New Balances. The success hasn't just been a slow burn, it's been a total explosion. We're talking Grammys, multi-platinum hits, and being the face of massive global brands. For a while there, it felt like Jack was the official white boy of the month on social media, but unlike the others who fade away after 4 weeks, his reign just kept going and going. He turned a temporary internet trend into a multi-year dynasty. It makes you stop and think, is it just the music, or is Jack Harlow the undisputed master of the Riz generation? There's something about his charm that just works on everyone. It doesn't matter if it's your Gen Z sister who's obsessed with his TikToks, or your mom who thinks he's such a charming young man. He has this universal appeal that is incredibly rare in modern hip-hop. He's got that old school movie star charisma mixed with a very modern, self-aware sense of humor. But before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Seriously. His ability to navigate a red carpet and leave every interviewer blushing is a masterclass in social dynamics. Everyone wants to know the secret sauce. Many people thought he'd be a one-hit wonder. When What's Poppin' blew up during the early days of the pandemic, critics were ready to write him off as another viral fluke destined to disappear. But Jack didn't just survive that moment. He used it as a springboard to become a legitimate A-list superstar capable of selling out arenas across the globe. Of course, with that kind of rapid ascension, the whispers were inevitable. You've heard them, right? The industry plant rumors. People started asking if he actually came out of nowhere, or if this was all a carefully calculated takeover orchestrated by the industry elite. It's hard for some to believe that a white kid from Kentucky could bridge the gap between hardcore hip-hop heads and the mainstream pop audience so seamlessly without some secret help behind the curtain. He somehow manages to be respected by the lyrical purists while also being the darling of the top 40 charts. To understand how he pulled this off, we have to look past the designer suits and the viral clips. We have to go back to his Kentucky roots and the Private Garden crew, the collective of friends who have been by his side since the very beginning. People often forget that Jack wasn't just a solo act who got lucky, he was part of a movement he helped build in a city not exactly known as a rap mecca. He's incredibly loyal to those who were there when the bank account was at zero, and that foundation is a huge part of why he seems so grounded. But the path to the top wasn't always this glamorous. Before he was flirting with every girl on the red carpet and dominating the charts, he was just a kid with a dream in Louisville. And you won't believe how different he looked back then. Louisville isn't exactly the first place you think of when you imagine a hip-hop mecca, is it? Usually people think of Atlanta, New York, or LA, but Jack Harlow's story starts in the land of horses and bourbon. Growing up in a non-traditional rap hub like Kentucky gave him this massive underdog mentality that still fuels his fire today. He wasn't just handed a microphone and a stage. He had to build the stage himself from the ground up with his own 2 hands. If you look back at his early YouTube days, you'll see a kid who was undeniably talented but clearly still figuring out his lane. This wasn't some overnight success story, despite what the industry plant theorists might want you to believe. We're talking about years of grinding in the trenches. He spent his high school years recording in basements and handing out CDs to anyone who would listen. Those early mixtapes like Gazebo and Loose are essential listening if you want to understand the foundation of his sound. They show a rapper who was already obsessed with flow and complex wordplay long before he had a professional stylist or a massive PR team. He was learning how to be a star before he actually became one. One of the coolest things about Jack's rise is that he didn't just leave everyone behind once he got a taste of the high life. He brought his entire world with him. Have you guys heard of the Private Garden Collective? That's his core crew, his childhood friends from Louisville who are still his photographers, his producers, and his creative partners to this very day. This wasn't some corporate group put together by a record label in a boardroom. This was a genuine brotherhood. They built their own brand from scratch in a city that most of the music industry had completely ignored. That kind of loyalty is incredibly rare in a business where people usually swap out their old friends for yes men the second they get famous. It keeps him grounded and reminds him exactly where he came from, and we have to talk about that style evolution for a second because honestly, the glow up is absolutely legendary. If you scroll far enough back on his old social media posts, you'll find a much different version of Jack Harlow. He was the nerdy, curly-haired kid with the glasses who looked more like he was headed to a debate club meeting than a sold-out rap show. But fast forward to today, and he's the suave, New Balance-wearing heartthrob who has everyone from Gen Z to their grandmothers swooning. He managed to turn casual cool into an entire aesthetic, but he knew that looking good and having a local buzz wasn't going to be enough to conquer the world. He needed that official industry stamp of approval. That's where the legends DJ Drama and Don Cannon come into the picture. When Jack signed to their label, Generation Now, it was a total game changer. Suddenly, he had the backing of two of the most respected names in hip-hop. It gave him the street cred and the professional polish that the industry gatekeepers felt he needed to be taken seriously as a white rapper. Then came the moment that changed his life forever. What's Poppin'? But it wasn't just the catchy beat, it was the video. When Cole Bennett and the Lyrical Lemonade team got involved, it was like lighting a match in a room full of gasoline. The direction was sleek, the energy was high, and Jack's charisma was off the charts. It wasn't just a hit song, it was a cultural reset for his entire career. Suddenly, the biggest names in the music world wanted a piece of the action. Think about it. How many artists can hold their own on a track next to a GOAT like Lil Wayne? Jack did it effortlessly on the remix. He wasn't intimidated, he was inspired. He started mastering the art of the high-profile feature, popping up on tracks with everyone from DaBaby to Justin Bieber, showing he could adapt to any vibe. But if you want to talk about a moment that really solidified his place in the cool kids club of music, we have to talk about Industry Baby with Lil Nas X. That collaboration was a massive risk that paid off in a big way. It showed that Jack wasn't afraid of bold artistic choices or the controversy that sometimes comes with them. He was standing right there in the middle of one of the biggest pop culture conversations of the decade. And he looked like he completely belonged there. This success wasn't just luck. His work ethic is actually insane. We're talking about a guy who stayed on a relentless touring schedule even when he could have just chilled. He utilized social media, especially Instagram, to craft this persona that felt accessible yet elite. He made you feel like you were hanging out with him while also showing you that he was living a life most people only dream of. He had the hits, he had the look, and he had the world in the palm of his hand. But then came the drama. Between dating rumors and those pesky industry plant accusations, things were about to get messy. The drama didn't just stay in the studio, it spilled onto the red carpet in the most viral ways possible. Have you seen that clip with Emma Chamberlain? You know the one, where the tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife, and Jack just leans in with that signature smirk. That moment became the blueprint for what the internet calls Riz. It was a masterclass in charm that had everyone wondering if it was scripted or just his natural vibe, and it didn't stop there. His interaction with Saweetie at the Grammys had the same high energy, flirtatious energy that keeps the paparazzi on their toes. These moments get millions of views because Jack knows exactly how to play the main character in any room he enters. He's not just a rapper anymore. He's a professional heartthrob who understands the sheer power of a 5-second viral clip. It's that effortless confidence that makes him so magnetic to watch. But with all that charm comes a massive amount of speculation about his love life. Remember when he dropped the song Dua Lipa? Most artists would be too scared to literally name a track after their celebrity crush, but Jack just went for it. The internet went into a complete meltdown trying to figure out if they were actually a thing. Rumors swirled for months, and then those Addison Rae whispers had TikTok detectives working overtime. Whether these relationships were real or just clever marketing, they kept his name in the headlines every single day. People are obsessed with who he's dating because he makes himself seem so attainable yet so out of reach at the same time. It's a brilliant balancing act that keeps us all scrolling through his feed for clues. You have to wonder if he's manifesting these romances or if he's just that good at playing the game. Of course, When you rise that fast, the haters are going to have a lot to say. The industry plant accusations started flying almost immediately. Critics pointed to his rapid ascent and his polished look as evidence he was a corporate creation designed to sell records. But is that fair? When you look at his years of independent mixtapes and the way he built Private Garden, it's hard to call him a plant without ignoring his history. Jack usually responds to these claims with a shrug and a clever lyric, letting his success do the talking. He's aware that his look helped open some doors, but he's determined to prove he's got the talent to stay in the room. He's not letting the noise distract him from the goal. This brings us to a bigger conversation. How does a white rapper navigate a black-dominated genre without making everyone cringe? We've seen plenty of artists fail at this, but Jack seems to handle it with more grace than most of his predecessors. He doesn't try to act like someone he's not. He pays homage to the legends, works closely with black creators, and remains vocal about his appreciation for the culture that gave him a career. He's not trying to be the next Eminem or Mac Miller. He's just Jack. This authenticity is why he's able to bridge the gap between hardcore hip-hop heads and the pop mainstream so effectively. He knows the history and he respects the craft, which goes a long way in this industry. However, it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows. When he dropped Come Home, the Kids Miss You, the internet was divided. Some fans loved the smooth, radio-friendly vibes, but critics on Twitter and Reddit started using the mid-label. They felt the music didn't have the same grit as his early mixtapes. There was this huge debate about whether he was becoming too pop and losing his edge. But even with the mid-allegations, the singles kept climbing the charts. His fans are incredibly loyal, defending him against every negative tweet and making sure his streaming numbers stay through the roof. It shows that at the end of the day, the fans' opinions are the ones that truly matter. And just when we thought we knew his limits, he pivots into acting. Landing the lead role in the White Men Can't Jump remake was a bold move. Is he the next Mark Wahlberg, or is this just a fun side quest? Transitioning to the big screen is a path many rappers take, but few succeed. If he can pull off being a movie star while keeping his music career alive, his level of fame will reach a completely different stratosphere. He's already showing he's got the screen presence for it, and the hype is only growing. It's clear he's not satisfied with just winning one lane. He wants the whole map. So what's next for the Louisville legend? Will his next album be the classic his critics are demanding, or has the hype finally peaked? Can he maintain his status as a sex symbol while being taken seriously as a top-tier lyricist? Love him or hate him, Jack Harlow has defined the aesthetic and the energy of the early 2020s. He's a marketing genius, a charming performer, and a kid from Kentucky who actually made it. But we want to know what you think. Is Jack Harlow actually the GOAT of the new generation, or is he just the best at marketing himself? Let us know.